fizzled like fireworks. Why Germany's Panther tanks bombed at Kursk in the summer of 1943. Hey, subscribe to the channel and drop your comments below. All right, folks, buckle up for an epic dive into one of the wildest stories from World War II. The disastrous debut of Germany's Panther tanks at the Battle of Kursk in the summer of 1943. Imagine it's 1943 and Nazi Germany is feeling the heat. The war's not going their way. Stalingrad was a disaster, and the Soviet Union is pushing back hard. The Germans need a game changer, something to make the Red Army quake in their boots. Enter the Panther tank, a sleek, high-tech beast with thick armor, a powerful 75mm gun, and enough engineering wizardry to make any gearhead drool. This wasn't just a tank. It was Germany's hope to claw back victory. But, as we'll see, even the flashiest tech can crash and burn if you don't play your cards right. Why should you care about this story? Because it's not just about tanks getting stuck in the mud. It's about ambition, screw-ups, and the gritty reality of war. It's like when a hyped-up startup launches a buggy app and tanks on launch day. Let's dig into how the Panthers went from Germany's golden ticket to a battlefield bust, and what it all means for us today. Let's rewind to January of 1943. Germany's high command is scrambling to beef up their armored divisions. They formed two new tank battalions, 51st and 52nd, each packed with 4 companies of 22 Panther tanks, plus 8 command tanks per battalion. That's roughly 200 of these bad boys ready to roll. Sound impressive, right? But here's the catch. The crews manning these tanks were mostly greenhorns, young soldiers and junior officers who'd never seen the muddy, brutal chaos of the Eastern Front. That's like handing a teenager the keys to a Ferrari and expecting them to win a NASCAR race. I can't help but wonder, why the rush? Training tank crews takes time, especially for a complex machine like the Panther. But Germany was desperate. Their economy was on life support. Factories were stretched thin, resources were scarce, and they were burning through tanks faster than they could build them. According to historical records, Germany churned out about 6,000 tanks in 1943, but that was a drop in the bucket compared to their losses. The Panthers were supposed to be the ace up their sleeve, but rushing them to the front was a gamble that didn't pay off. Right before the big offensive, codenamed Operation Citadel, the Germans lumped these Panther battalions into the 39th Tank Regiment, which was attached to the elite Great Germany Division. Sounds like a dream team, but as we'll see, even a fancy name couldn't save them from disaster. The big day, July 5th, 1943. Fast forward to the morning of July 5th, 1943. The Battle of Kursk is kicking off. It's about to become one of the biggest tank clashes in history. The Germans unleash their Panthers against the Soviet 245th Tank Regiment, which is armed with American-made tanks, 12 medium M3 tanks and 27 light M3 tanks. On paper, the Panthers should have steamrolled them. Thicker armor, better guns, the works. But war isn't fought on paper. The Germans made a rookie mistake. They picked a terrible spot to attack. Their Panthers rolled right into a ravine, a narrow, muddy trap that turned these 45-ton monsters into sitting ducks. Imagine trying to drive a monster truck through a swamp. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, the Soviets hit back with a counterattack, throwing infantry and tanks into the mix. The result? The Soviets reclaimed their positions, and the Panthers took a beating. According to Soviet records, their 245th Regiment lost 9 medium tanks, 2 light tanks, and had 1 more medium tank knocked out. 26 soldiers were killed, and 24 were wounded. But here's where it gets juicy. The Soviets claimed they knocked out 30 German tanks, while the Germans admitted to losing only 18. Who's telling the truth? Probably neither side. Battlefield reports are notoriously messy. What's clear is that the Panthers didn't live up to the hype. What went wrong? So how did Germany's shiny new tanks flop so hard? Let's break it down. First, the terrain was a nightmare. The Kursk salient wasn't some flat Midwest prairie. It was a rugged landscape of ravines, rivers, and bogs. The Panthers were heavy and clunky, nowhere near as nimble as the Soviet T-34 tanks. Getting stuck in a ditch made them easy pickings for Soviet gunners and tank crews. Second, the Panthers were plagued by mechanical gremlins. These were brand new machines, and like a new car fresh off the lot, they had bugs. Engines overheated, transmissions gave out, and fuel systems choked. By July 8th, only 11 of the original 192 Panthers were still operational. 11. That's a disaster. The Germans managed to patch up some tanks, getting 44 back in action by July 17th, but that's still a fraction of what they started with. Here's my take. The Germans rolled the dice and lost. They could have spent more time testing the Panthers and training their crews, but Hitler and his generals were in a panic. The Eastern Front was bleeding them dry, and they needed a win fast. It's like launching a half-baked product to beat a deadline. Sure, it might look good in a demo, but when it hits the real world, it crashes. The economic angle, why the Panthers mattered. To really get why this flop stung so bad, let's talk dollars and cents, or rather, Reichsmarks. Building a Panther wasn't cheap. Each one cost about 117,000 Reichsmarks, which, adjusted for inflation, is roughly $500,000 today. Compare that to the Soviet T-34, which cost about half as much. Germany's economy in 1943 was a mess. Fuel was scarce, steel was rationed, and factories relied on forced labor to keep going. Historical data shows that Germany spent up to 70% of its military budget on the Eastern Front, so every lost Panther was a gut punch. Meanwhile, the Soviets were cranking out T-34 tanks like nobody's business, about 15,000 in 1943 alone. They also had a secret weapon, American aid through the Lend-Lease program. Those M3 tanks in the Soviet arsenal, courtesy of Uncle Sam. This gave the Soviets a massive numerical edge, letting them absorb losses that would have crippled the Germans. This story got me thinking, what's more important, quality or quantity? The Germans bet big on quality, pouring resources into high-tech Panthers. But they forgot that war isn't just about fancy gear. It's about logistics, training, and strategy. The Soviets, on the other hand, went for quantity and reliability. The T-34 wasn't perfect, but there were tons of them, and they got the job done. The human factor played a huge role too. Those young German tank crews were thrown into the deep end with barely any experience. It's like asking a newbie coder to debug a million-line program on day one. Add to that the rushed production and spotty maintenance, and you've got a recipe for disaster. The Battle of Kursk teaches us that even the best tech in the world is useless if you don't know how to use it. The Panthers were supposed to be Germany's ticket to victory, but they burned out faster than a sparkler at a backyard barbecue. Outmaneuvered by Soviet troops, crippled by breakdowns, and betrayed by bad planning, their debut at Kursk was a flop of epic proportions. This isn't just a story about tanks. It's about hubris, haste, and the harsh reality of war. So what do you think? Subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments. Were the Panthers doomed from the start? Or could they have turned the tide with better prep? What's the real lesson here? Drop your thoughts below, and let's get the conversation going.